Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another uLaw webinar. I welcome everyone who's joined me today for today's webinar on the hidden gems that we want to highlight and talk about within the uLawPractice product or platform. Now, today's uLaw webinar is not accredited for any CPD. As we've indicated earlier, the CPD sessions would probably be in a couple of weeks where we start to devise newer topics. But today's session is something that we haven't covered in quite a while, I would say. It truly highlights some of the key aspects of the product that sometimes go, I wouldn't say unnoticed, but it's not the most popularly used features, predominantly because everyone's doing their day-to-day activities with uLaw within, let's say, the contacts, matters, and the accounting aspect of it. So we're going to throw some light on the importance of the dashboard. We're going to talk about how it integrates with the contacts, the quick view, which is just a fast and easy way for you to search for any matter-related information. We'll highlight a lot of features that we've now added within our calendar system. And of course, our new addition to our platform, the analytics, which gives the sole practitioner or a small to mid-sized legal firm the capabilities of a large firm about the right data about their firm, the performance of that firm, and how you could use that data to your advantage to better plan to be successful in the coming months and weeks and years with that firm's performance. Okay? So predominantly we're going to talk about these 5 major menu options that you find within the product and really what are the significant experiences that you should find in using these hidden gems. Okay, so like every other uLaw webinar, today's webinar has a specific agenda, which is going to be more of a demonstration of the capabilities of these 5 different menu options within the product, how they're intertwined with all other menu options, and how using this as a cohesive platform, you are empowered with the right data at the right time to take actionable insights. Okay? So we're going to talk about dashboards, the different components of it. We're going to do a little bit more deeper dive into contacts beyond just creating clients. We're going to talk about how you could create groups within the clients that allow you to categorize or classify your different contacts based on the relationship that your firm has with that individual contact, and how it can come handy when you're searching to add individuals or contacts as additional parties within a matter. We'll quickly look into how you can use the quick view to your advantage when you or anyone in your firm are looking for key information that are matter related across various status of those matters and life cycles. Spend some time most definitely on the calendar. Now, as and when you docket, as and when you start to put in time across various items within your legal firm, the calendar is really the backbone of the timekeeping system that keeps tab of the time that's planned as well as time spent. It also gives you the opportunity for you to generate quite a few timesheets, both based on the individuals that are performing the actions in your firm, as well as timesheets that are based on revenue and based on clients. Okay? And last but not the least, keeping true to uLaw's motto of empowering the solo and the small legal firms with the right amount of tools that gives you the opportunity to perform at your highest capability. The analytics is a new addition to our platform that gives light or throws light to the data that you currently have within your firm, the performance of that data, and the information that you can pretty much crunch out of the data that you have for your own firm. Important data sets, such as the areas in which you're actually making or generating revenue, specific areas where you're actually spending a lot of your expenses, being able to compare and contrast these numbers side by side across different date ranges, understanding your pro bono hours by client, the unbilled hours, even understanding if it's prudent to your situation, data key points such as capital investment by different investors. And we've taken this one step further because this is just-in-time data that you can use to plan your future with the firm. We've also provided this capability within your app experience as well. So uLaw is now available both on your iOS and Android device, and you can very well download the app as well as log in using the same information that you would use to log in into the web browser, and of course enjoy the key capabilities of the analytics. Okay? And we're going to really talk about how these features complement your overall uLaw experience. Now, for many of the audience members today who are current users of uLaw, you probably have a landing page that pretty much lands on the dashboard. This truly is the first screen that you would probably see when you log in into your uLaw system. Of course, you can personalize that. You can make that into any screen within the uLaw product, but by default, this is the landing screen. And now you have the opportunity to personalize this screen, and we're going to talk about it briefly, about the number of different squares, we call them, or widgets within that screen that you want to accommodate. We have a maximum of 6 different widgets that you can accommodate within a single panel, and each of these different widgets has a purpose, whether it's the upcoming to-dos, which is basically a task reminder of things that you want to remind yourself of, things that you want to do, court visits, meeting a client, etc. Or it could be the invoice pending matter, which is one of my favorite widgets, which highlights all of the matters for which you've put in the effort, you've docketed or dispersed, but you haven't yet generated an invoice. Because it's a great reminder for you to recognize that revenue, right? One is to, of course, capture the moment, docket, and disperse as and when things happen, but also it's important that you do have a timely manner to generate those invoices so that you can recognize the revenue and, of course, based on that, based on the situation, ensure that you're getting paid on time as well. Okay? So starting from that to even simple things like recently modified matters or contacts that allows you to maneuver or navigate a faster way within the uLaw system. So we're going to talk about the components of the dashboard and how they intertwine with the contacts and matters and etc., other things. Okay? And then, of course, we'll talk about the contact screen. This is a very busy feature within the product. Anytime that you do a client intake, this is the screen that you would start with. But today we'll, of course, talk about how you do client intake, the different options that you have within the client intake form. We'll also talk briefly about how you could use the group function to classify and categorize your different contact information that you come across within your firm. Okay? And we'll also talk about how that contact information gets repurposed within matters as additional parties. And you could also utilize other types of parties to, whether that's attention to or bill to, different parties beyond the legal aspects that you could use in the kind of documents that we can generate using those associations. Okay? A quick view is, as I've mentioned, a fast and easy way for you to search for all of the matter-related information. So, and once you've generated a matter, this is the best way where you can do a free text search, whether you know the name of the client, the type of matter that it is, the file number maybe, and even if you've categorized those matters as active, closed, or archived, you have now the opportunity to search based on those categories. And we find that it's a great time saver because a lot of law firms, prior to having a system such as uLaw, this is one area that they were spending quite a bit of time trying to search through the record-keeping systems or manual systems sometimes for important and just-in-time matter-related information. Okay. Of course, across all these screens, we have a plethora of reports and important data aspects that you capture that gives you furthermore information about your firm, reports, documents, etc. The calendar system within uLaw allows you to not only visualize time, it also allows you to visualize time for yourself, visualize time across your firm, gives you the capability to integrate the calendar with your phone, whether it's iOS or Android, through the uLaw app. That pretty much brings in all those different calendar events that you've created right into the calendar of your phone. Okay? You have the opportunity to visualize it from a daily, weekly, or monthly view. From surveying our customers, we find the weekly or the monthly view to be the top two views within the uLaw product that predominantly individuals use. We'll talk about the color coding, which is a new aspect to the product, especially with the collaboration that small law firms have today with multiple individuals being involved in a firm. And we'll also talk about some important reports, as we mentioned earlier, such as client and service reports, as well as timesheets that are based both on client-related timesheets, revenue timesheets, and just simply timekeeping for multiple individuals within the organization. And we certainly wanted to add this last aspect to the hidden gem, and cannot stress enough the importance of these data aspects. Now, through the use of the product, through the data entry that you have done due diligently over a period of time, data gets accumulated across the system, capturing data points from various different functionalities or functions of the uLaw product, various functions that you perform, whether it's adding entries with regards to dockets that are client-related, whether it's functions of data entry that are related to your office expenses, subtle little differentiations right within the files and expenses as well. For example, you may docket certain matters as pro bono. You may have certain dockets as billable time, flat rate. We capture all that data, and we have more than about 15 to 18 different data components that we call analytics that are built right into the product. It's available for you to consume right from day one, right from revenue to expense to even profit and loss. If you really want to have a quick snapshot of what the situation is with your firm for a particular week or even that time period of a month, this is a quick and easy way for you to visualize it and take corrective measures or improve upon what you've already accomplished. Of course, you have reports that are more comprehensive in nature that you can print, and it's a totally different visualization, of course, but this gives you the capability in today's modern world and fast-paced world to quickly look at that data without having to generate the reports. Okay? Some of the more common analytics that I start to find our customers really appreciate is the comparison of their expenses, so they have a good understanding of the different categories in which they do spend the money, and we find customers, in fact, taking actions of looking to reduce those categories. For example, if you're spending a lot on rent and you see that as a trend, you can most certainly, of course, put your act into finding better property, or maybe using a shared rental, or finding opportunities such as WeWork or full floor chambers that gives you space for rent. So those are some of the things that we see quite often people use. But of course, we have other aspects of data points such as work in progress, pro bono, even a complete list of invoices, and of course, interesting further drill down such as capital investment. Okay, these are the 5 major, I would call them hidden gems or functionalities that are extending and surrounding the key capability of legal accounting and practice management and business accounting, which are the three major pillars of the uLaw product. Okay? And that's all I have for slide share, because I want to give enough time, the next 35-40 minutes, so that we can walk through these different aspects of it through a demo. And for friends who did join a bit late, today's webinar is on the hidden gems, which talks about the 5 key menu options, which are the dashboard, contacts, quick view, calendar, and analytics. It's not a CPD session, so you don't get any CPD credits for participating in today's demo, but we will have CPD sessions in the coming weeks. But stick around, because we're going to try and make this interesting, and if you're current users of uLaw, we hope you would enjoy the, if you've really not used some of these systems, it could actually be a bit of an exciting 30-40 minutes. And again, if you've not used uLaw, it's still important for you to discover the key capabilities of a legal accounting system that you may be missing, opportunities for you to improve and be more efficient in your practice. Okay? So I'm going to quickly shift gears into my uLaw product. So I'm logged in as my 6 years legal accountant, or actually I have logged in as legal professional Roger Moore, who I use quite a bit in all my demonstrations. And let's start with the dashboard. So you can see here I have these 6 different squares or rectangles. Now they all start within the settings. So if you look at our settings, almost every menu option has its own settings. This is where you can truly personalize the overall experience and the look and feel of the product to meet your needs. Okay, so if you've got, for example, right now the header color is hot blue, this could be little things like that. It's not a, let me move that to maybe maroon. Now, currently I have the recently modified matters to start with, followed by the contacts, but I can always mix them up. I can have contacts first, I can have the matters later. I actually have news on the Ontario Bar Association. This could be any information that you like to capture, so it's just free text. You have upcoming to-dos, events, and one of my favorite dashboard items, which is the invoice spending matters. Okay, so you can decide if you want all the 6 of them, or if you don't want them, you can just make that as none, and you now only have 5 dashboard items. Okay, very important that once you do make those changes, you click on the Save button, and that's essentially going to reflect now once I click on the dashboard menu option. Okay, so again, you can change the color. You can even change the range of events to display. So I basically have set it up that I want all the data components over the past week. Now you can actually extend that capability to give you data elements over the last 6 months even. But the reason why we mention 1 week is because we really want you to be on top of your game, at least on a weekly basis, if not on a daily basis. Okay? Because you don't want to pull up on actions over the last 6 months. So you can see now quickly the color has changed. It's more of a maroon or reddish experience across the product. You've got the different menu options, including information about the Law Society of Ontario. So you can see different aspects of news that may be important to you. You can actually have multiple such news elements, and because you can change this recently modified contacts, for example, you can change that into a news event, and you can basically say Raptors, right? So you can essentially have multiple items that are more personalized to how you want to use. So we have customers who use this for weather, people who use it for sports news, people who use it for legal news. So you can really mix and match them and really have just 2 items that are important to the practice management that they want to stay on top of. Okay? So this is how you would really personalize the dashboard. And we recommend that you kind of keep changing them on a regular basis just to keep things interesting, if you will. You can see, of course, there's a fee fine for that, etc., right? You get the idea. Now, the recently modified matters, very similar to the contacts, allows you to navigate into that particular file quickly. So if you were working on this particular matter, Theo versus Roger, and you want to get into it real quick, you basically are just going to click on it, and there it goes. It brings the entire navigation into that particular matter of Theo versus Roger. Okay? Let me quickly go back to changing my settings. Now I'll make this hot blue. I really like that color. And today in uLaw, a little thing, a tip is if you have a drop-down, they're all alphabetically arranged, so you can actually use your keyboard to type in the first alphabet and actually get to that particular option. So we're trying to make this friendly with the keyboards as well. Shortcuts, if you will. All right. Now, similar to the recently modified matters, you have the same concept with the recently modified contacts. Because if you click on that particular contact, you're going to walk right into the contact screen for that specific contact. Now, in many cases, if, say, you have done an intake of a client using your phone's app, this could be a great example. You could do a client intake when you met somebody at the courthouse, and you've done a client intake on your phone, and that shows up here in the browser version of things, which then allows you or your assistant in real time to continue down the path of intaking that client, getting their driver's license, conflict screens done, etc. Okay, so it really allows you for that whole collaboration, that widget of the recently modified contacts. Now, as and when you dock it or you specify the time that you're putting into your legal firm across many things, we start to capture them as events, and we color code them based on how far they are away from today's date. For example, you got a next court date that was on May 21st. At least we were told that it was May 21st specific for this matter for Amy Jackson. Now, if you had marked it as a billable docket, we capture that as an event, and we tell you, you had mentioned this to be a billable docket. It's past May 21st, of course, so we want to know, did you actually bill the customer or do you plan to bill them? And if you do, you can just go ahead and bill that individual right here, right through the dashboard. You don't even have to get into the specific matter. If you've already planned for a specific task that could be matter related especially, you can do what we call as a quick docket right from the dashboard. It's a very cool feature. By just using this little arrow, you basically have docketed. Okay? As simple as that. So once that's done, that particular line item is taken off this checklist. So same thing with this purchase of condo for Jason Holder. So say you plan 30 minutes and you're billing him 30 minutes for the initial background check. You're going to see this red line item disappear in 5 to 10 seconds once it's refreshed the screen. Okay, there you go. Behind the scene, what really has happened is if I go into, what's a good example? Let me just segue quickly into my quick view. Now I know the customer's name is Jason Holder from that particular checklist that I just did. So the quick view allows you to, first and foremost, within the matters, categorize your matters as active, that are current matters, any matters that are closed, so basically done and dealt with. Archived is just another extension of a closed matter. It's a great example of if you want to utilize it for the one-off matters that you may never ever deal with in your life. So you currently did a one-off LATP matter for a friend, but it's something that you really don't want to get into, so you can archive that matter. Closed could be a great example where if you had multiple matters for the same client, you could have the current client or file for that client as active, any completed matters as closed, so it always gives you the focus to work on the current active file. So if I were to go quickly and search up JSON holder, so this is free text. So I can basically just go ahead and type in JSON space holder, as you can see, and it brings anyone with the name Jason and a combination of folder. And this was the purchase of condo that we had just docketed on. And I'm going to click on, so the quick view also allows you to navigate right into the matter. So I just clicked on purchase of condo, which is the description of that particular matter, and now it's going to take me right into that particular matter. And now what you're going to notice is that 30-minute docket that we did right from the dashboard would now be reflected right here, and now the matter is ready for invoicing. Okay? You can see this was a task that you had planned for. The dashboard indicated and reminded you that that was an event that was billable. Now you can go ahead and say that was a zero billable docket if you want to, if you're not going to bill him for that time. But we're still trying to capture the moment. Now once you actually have docketed, of course it's time for you to generate an invoice, potentially, right? Now this is where you see the status of invoice pending. This leads to, chronologically, the next item that I want to talk about, which is the invoice pending matter. And you can see for JSON holder, the purchase of condo is now highlighted as one of the items that you have to focus based on the date. You click that, essentially takes you to the same matter, but this time with the purpose of you having to generate the invoice. So basically we're saying go ahead and generate the invoice because you've docketed the 30 minutes, right? So let's say you do go ahead and click on the invoice button, and for purposes of today's demo, I'm just going to go ahead with complete. So technically we always talk to our customers about generating a preview or a pre-bill. Go ahead and hit complete. I'll skip the preview, which is the uLaw theme, and I will generate the invoice. So let's say I've done, uLaw has pretty much hand-holded you to go through the process of docketing and invoicing just out of the dashboard screen. You didn't even have to go into the matter. It was all done right out of the dashboard screen, right? Or at least the starting point was out of the dashboard screen. So as much as we look at dashboard, it's very important that you utilize its key capabilities to maximize the utilization and the experience of the uLaw product. So now that I have generated that invoice for $226, you see, of course, within the matter, the status has changed from pending invoice to no pending invoice. And what's interesting to note is that you see this purchase of condo as one of the items that just disappeared. What that really means is uLaw recognizes that you've actually taken a step. You don't see that as a pending matter for invoice anymore, and hence has taken it off your checklist. So here you're left with, of course, these many number of matters for which you've docketed, but you're yet to generate an invoice. Technically speaking, you want your upcoming events to be in a blue color, which is more recent, and you want your invoice pending matter dashboard, if possible, just to be empty. Okay. Now the upcoming to-dos is a great example if you want to collaborate with others. You can essentially, typically if it's not a billable docket, you can essentially put that in. Training session, lunch coordination, and you can make this as a to-do list for yourself with a kind of a little reminder, if you will. For about 8 a.m. on Monday. Okay. And again, you change this entire docket from a default duration. So typically it's defaulted to duration because we want to understand if you've spent the time or plan to spend the time on a docket. But let's say it's not really a docket, it's more of a internal reminder. You could do that, right? And what happens is it refreshes and it makes it as part of your to-do list of things to do. And when time comes on Monday, very similar to how we went through this checklist one at a time, you can go ahead, hit the checklist and tell us if you've actually completed, or if you want to convert this to a docketable time, you can do so by just putting in the duration and the billable time. Okay? So again, using a combination of the upcoming to-dos, events, and invoice spending matters, you can essentially understand that we're all trying to stay on top of the revenue that you can recognize out of the tasks that you can accomplish, both docketing on time as well as invoicing on time. Okay? So that's a key aspect to the dashboard, a very important screen that we consider as a segue to ensure that you're profitable, efficient, and you're staying on top of the work that needs to get accomplished. Hope that made sense. Hope that was a fresh breath of features that you probably didn't know. For those who already know it, fantastic. We're just reiterating the key basic, I would say, best practices within that screen. Now let's move on to the next aspect that we wanted to cover after the dashboard, which was the contacts. And as you can see, I'm just coming down this order of the 7 menu options that we have in uLaw. You've got dashboard, contacts, quick view, matters, accounts, calendar, and analytics. And the only 2 menu options that we're not covering today, because we've spoken about this in many other webinars and really, I would say, drone the message home about the importance of matters and then accounts. Matters is where you're going to create the file. That's where you're going to docket, disperse, invoice, right? Accounting is where you're going to do both legal accounting, compliance, business accounting, office expenses, etc. But we're going to leave those 2 for today and focus on everything else. So if you look at our contacts, fundamentally, this is where you're going to create a client. So let's start off with that. Of course, it's the most basic step that you would do in uLaw to get started. You would click on Add New Contact, of course, and you would add that contact predominantly to your clients group. So that's really a group, a special group of contacts for whom you can create a file. So let's say I'm going to say this is Brady. Within the source of client intake form, this is a rather newer feature of a data point that we collect for reporting and to give you insight, is really for you to understand how you got to know this customer or how did this customer get to know your legal firm. So this could be word of mouth, and this is again alphabetically arranged, so I can just type E or JusticeNet. I could say L, F for friends or family. It's all alphabetically arranged. I'm going to go ahead and say it's Oakville, Canada. Mark that as a mailing address. Fairly simple. You've got a phone number. This leads to me having to talk about a brand new feature in our product. What that is if you have their phone number and the email of the individual client, let me go ahead and click Save. Now, if you have downloaded the uLaw app, as I mentioned, the uLaw app is now available for you to download free of charge both on your iOS and Android devices. Now, if you download that, enter your credentials, your username, password, of course, and log in, you're going to see all these contacts that you've saved right here, including Julian Brady with his phone number and email. Now, this new feature in uLaw allows you to click on that phone number, and that's going to directly dial that individual, assuming it's that person's cell phone, and you're just making a quick telephone conversation with that client right from the courthouse, right from the app. Once you've completed that call, so let's say it lasted for about 14 minutes. You had a 14-minute phone conversation with that client, basically trying to talk about the matter, let's say. In the phone, once you've disconnected from that phone conversation, it's going to take you back into uLaw and prompt you if you would like to docket the rounded off 18 minutes as a billable docket to that particular matter, if you've created the matter, okay? Or if you've not created the matter, it's going to ask you to create the matter and add that as a docket. So it's really a great feature to add the phone number. Same thing to do with the email. If you've just emailed the person and you spent 4 minutes drafting that email, again, based on your situation, if you do bill for those little things as part of the retainer agreement, then now we give you the opportunity to even docket that email, the effort that you put in, and once you've composed and sent the email, to say, all right, I want to docket, of course, 6 minutes of that email drafting time. So it's very important that you do capture the phone number and email within the contacts, especially for a client, which we then use to help you docket. Okay? That's a brand new feature within the app. So I really wanted to highlight, now it's more important that you do capture the phone number and email if your client does have one. Okay, so that's typically how you would create a client within uLaw. Now we have this concept called groups. You can add a new group, delete groups, of course, or merge certain groups together. Okay, so you can see this is a Playground account, and you can see quite a few. Many of our clients have really used and found different types of groups that they've created, right? But we give you a basic set of groups that you can delete, the top 10, I would say, up to witnesses. This is a default set of groups that we provide you and start you off with. Everything below witnesses are some things that you can create on your own. Let's assume you have created a new group called Web Leads, and let's say you have a client or a prospective client. You can basically add them under Web Leads. So you could basically say, Mr. Geller, website, and let's just say it's a basic set of information they've asked for. They haven't really given anything more. It's a web lead. So you could focus your attention of reviewing the web leads on a daily basis, making it a note for your assistant or for yourself to reach out to these prospects that had come through your website or had left you a voice message on your phone system saying, hey, I'm Monica Geller. I'd like to speak with this legal professional, lawyer, paralegal about this particular item. I want to, take my neighbor to court or for whatever, right? And they provided a phone number maybe, so you can essentially group them. They're not a client yet, as I said. They're not a client. They're not a ghost client yet because they haven't given you too much information, but it doesn't hurt to add them as a ghost client. And that's what I'm going to do next. So if you think Monica Geller is a ghost client is someone who's given you a lot of information, first name, last name, address, phone number, and has, of course, disappeared, had mentioned that they would retain you, but having given all this information, they just disappeared. You have the moral obligation and the legal obligation to mark them down as a ghost client. So in uLaw, all you got to do is you can actually have an individual contact marked across various groups. So the same Monica Geller, who's now under web leads, can also be a ghost client. Okay? So if I go under my ghost clients, you can see my web leads went up to 3 from 2. And my ghost clients, once I do save Monica under ghost clients, it's now going to add up to, I think, 9, unless it was already only 7. So there you go, it is 9. And there you go, you do see Monica Geller there. So this now gives you the opportunity to really promote that prospective customer up the rank before they finally become a client. So let's assume now Monica Geller has finally given you a call and she's given you information. So she's given her address. And you make that as a home address. Okay? And Monica Geller is ready to retain you. So she's basically scheduled time to meet you on Monday to bring in and sign up a $500 retainer or $565 retainer. So she's really a customer. You can now add her to the clients group. So I've just added Monica Geller and just promoted her initially from being a web lead to a ghost client and now to being an actual client. So Monica typically is in those 3 different buckets, if you will, within uLaw. And what you can certainly do is you can technically just remove her from those other groups too. Okay. Now, important to note that's only for a contact that's either a client or a ghost client can you even create a matter. Okay. So if I go into my web leads, and you can see for Toby, there is no opportunity for you to create a matter because he, at this particular stage, is just a web lead. You've not promoted him to being a client. So it's only for a client that you would find that. So you've created this contact, and it's Friday afternoon, and you just shut down the machine, and you're left for your day. You can come back to your dashboard, and if you had your recently modified contacts, you would, of course, see Monica Geller. Okay? Simple things like that. So hopefully that gave you, again, another perspective of why we have this concept of groups and how you can maximize the use of that group to really promote customers. Now, another opportunity is, let's say you're dealing with Monica Geller and it's just small claims, and you've got the information. Let's go ahead and create that matter real quick. So I'm going to use the search. So again, just like how we used free text search under our quick view, we have a fairly straightforward and powerful search right under the search option right under contacts. So I typed it in and you get that information right here. Okay? I'm going to actually go ahead and create a matter for Monica. And of course, I will be aware of the time with another 15 minutes left. But all of this adds up and it's really important. So let's say this is a small claims. I'm going to leave it at GTA for now. I'm going to say Monica versus Stefan. Okay? Or let me say Yvonne. And let's assume that Monica is your plaintiff and Yvonne is the defendant. And this is where it becomes interesting about, you do have to capture the information of the defendant as well, because it's used in court forms, it's used in context screening, right? So where do you store that information? You store that in uLaw within the contacts, because contacts is really a placeholder for all people and company information, whether it's people or individuals, whether it's an organization. Sometimes you may have corporate clients, so you can mark a client as a corporate client as well, if it's not a private or an individual client, right? You may have joint retainer situations, in which case you, of course, have to create both the contact information and associate them. So now you've got Monica, and let's say now you've just got Ivan's information. You're going to add a new contact, and now you have the opportunity to categorize this contact, Ivan, as a relationship with your firm. So as of today, as you know it, you know that he is a defendant. So you can say add to defendants this new contact. Okay? So you can go ahead and put in random street, Toronto, home, marked as mailing address. So now you've saved Yvonne, the defendant's information. Now there's yet another contact which is very pragmatic, as something that you will be coming across, is the defendant's legal representative, right? And again, you may not know all this information up front, but as and when you know it, it makes sense to add that information one time into the contacts database. So now that you've added Yvonne, it stays in the uLaw database, of course, unless you delete it. And you notice there's a group called representatives. Now, this could be colleagues, this could be lawyers, paralegals that you come across as your opposing counsel on a regular basis, right? Let's say you come across this individual, Stefan, who's always, fighting the case against you, and he's the opposing representative. You can store their information in. And let's see if I do have a Stefan. Well, there you go. I do have a Stefan. I've got his information too, one time. Maybe this is his address, this is his work address, right? How do I bring these contact information in relationship to the matter? So you've created the relationship of that contact with your firm, but now I want you to understand how you can bring those contacts in relationship with the particular file. Okay, so that's the two different differentiators. One, in contacts, you create the relationship of a contact with your overall company or your legal firm, and then you granularize it by associating those contacts within a file as what we call as additional parties. So here, you can basically say add a party, and you can say in legal lingo, and you of course know this as the legal professional, that defendant, I can keep pressing D, and there is my defendant. I'm going to say it's Yvonne, and there's Yvonne Lendl. And I hit save. Now what uLaw does is it takes that contact information and it associates that individual contact into this file as a defendant to this Monica file. I can do the same thing and basically say representative. And this time I'm going to say it's Stefan Edberg, and I'm going to hit save. So now I have associated two contacts in relationship to this particular file of Monica, which is file number MG51365. It gets used across court form filling. It gets used across conflict screen. And just to give you a quick example of the form, if I go into my small claims, and let's say I do a simple plaintiff's claim, uLaw has this feature of associating these contacts and filling out those court forms, and we keep them as updated as possible every 2 weeks. That's our SLA. And if it changes in the court forms on the website, we take 2 weeks to update it into the system, and we give you the appropriate document. Small claims are Word, others could be PDF, right? With all that contact information that you had stored into it. So, I know I've taken quite a bit of time, but very important aspect of the contacts. It's just not meant to add clients. It gives you the purpose of also bringing the relationship of other contacts, both with regards to your firm as well as regards to a file, by using the additional parties. Okay, so now you've got Monica Geller, her address, you've got your information, who's Roger Moore, and there it is. You've got Yvonne Lendl, who's the defendant, right? And then you've got the representative, Mr. Stefan Edberg. So hopefully that, again, painted a picture about how you can maximize the use of contacts to search for information, contact-related. You could use it to create groups and associate contacts within the relationship with your firm, and then take that one step further by associating them as parties within the file. Now let's move on to, I think we've already explored Quick View, and hence I'm going to go into my calendar. Now the calendar, with the addition of some of the newer features that we have integrated into the system, gives you the opportunity to color code various different dockets. So in your settings, like for dashboard, you also have a setting for calendar. You can set your default view to be monthly, first day of the week to be Monday or Sunday, whether you want weekends to be displayed, etc., right? But a new feature gives you the opportunity where if you're having more than one, I would say legal counsel or legal professional in this particular uLaw firm's account, you can give them different colors. In fact, there are some tips and tricks of the trade. So you can associate, if let's say you're just a solo practitioner, right? You do not have an L2. You can actually have you can basically, we know customers who default L2 or even A1. Let's say you don't have an assistant, you can say A1 to be red danger, which is a deep red color. And when, let's say, you dock it, comes in very handy, to be quite honest. If I would ask, this is a pretty cool feature. So you could basically say, I'm going to make this as A1, and basically say court visit scheduled for 17th of this month. Okay, so you've basically just categorized A1 as always a court visit. Again, this is just an example of a solo practitioner utilizing A1. If you've got multiple lawyers, you could use from A1 to A5, or you can have a named account as well. But the idea I'm trying to get is, there it is, that deep red color. So if you're going to look at visually the calendar, you're going to notice these deep reds that are meant to highlight that it's a event that you should not miss, a court visit or attend court. Or you can go one step further, and we have a lot of our clients that do that. You can put in further descriptive information in this very description. Okay. Now, if you want to review just the ones that are in red, you do not want to see anything else, there's a new feature in the calendar for that as well. So now you can go into your calendar. There it is. You can see it's a pleading matter. If I click on it, it gives you further information. It tells you what the matter is, the file number, title, etc. And of course, if you've completed this, you can dock it right from here too. So that's another added advantage of having it in your calendar. Often we're always asked if you can add dockets for multiple matters instead of going into the matter itself. You can do that from the calendar. So if you want to docket your time for, let's say, the 4th, you can click on the 4th, say initial client meeting. You can add this to a matter and choose the client. Or if you do not know the client, you can search him up. You can basically say Monica Geller. It brings up that matter. And you can say it was for half an hour, or you could say this was for. So essentially, you don't even have to go into the matter itself. You can use the calendar if it's time-based, Or you can use the Matter if it's task-based, or you can use the dashboard if it's something that you already planned for and you're coming back to it. Okay? In terms of filters, if you really want to look at the different, there it is. It's there. If I go back into my Matter, there it is. My initial client meeting has all been set up. Okay, makes sense? So you can basically dock it right from your calendar too. So if you go here and look at this little arrow that you see next to calendar, let me go ahead and click that. And we have something called as a calendar filter. Now this is where you could say, I want to look at all my calendars. That is, I can associate if I had multiple lawyers working or legal professionals working in my firm, I can have a visualization of all their data or their calendar. Or I can say, if I'm a solo practitioner who just wants to know court dates, and if I've associated A1 docket as a court date docket, I can just look at that, and there you go. It's going to bring up all the court dates potentially color-coded in red. Okay, so this filter has a great purpose of you being able to visualize the way you like to see the calendar. Of course, that's bringing nothing. And let's see, I want to see everything else. Now, sometimes you may want to even hide the time dockets, which are only bringing you tasks that are more personal, because you can have those too. You do not have to have calendar events that are meant to be associated with matters. So you can basically say, you can use it for personal time too, so that you can ensure that it's not conflicting, right? You can say tennis lessons, and it's not added to a matter. It's just the personal time that on the Sunday, starting at 10 a.m. for 2 hours, you're going to have tennis lessons, right? And in this particular view, you're only going to see tasks that are not related to a docket or a matter. So, of course, you're going to see those tennis lessons show up on Sunday, just like that. And this is where you can also generate your timesheets. Okay, so based on time, of course, I'll skip this for today, but this is where you can generate some fantastic time-based reports that truly highlight revenue by employee, by individual client, and can also generate the revenue summary, which translates the individual dockets by rate multiplied for the time and effort. Again, hopefully that threw some light on the purpose of the calendar and how it can be repurposed for many different facets of your utilization of the uLaw product. And last, I'll get into the analytics. So you've done all this data entry, a lot of dockets, a lot of expenses. Now we have close to about 18 different analytical point of views or data sets. So you can very well understand. Let's say I want to know my fee book by category. I want to know which areas of practice is bringing revenue to my firm. And I want to know it for this entire quarter. Okay, so I have scheduled this to be calendar year. So Jan, Feb, March, I've got April, May, June. So this is for April to June. This is all the data. Of course, have a bar graph of that, but my favorite is the pie graph. If you need to make this more visually appealing, you can click on this little square, and that's going to allow you to know that 38% of your revenue this quarter came from family law. Okay? Again, you can still go to the tabular version of it to really understand those numbers. So 36% came from family law. You had about 14% coming from small claims. Now let's say you want to compare this. You want to compare this with the specific month. So you could say, that's great. So I want to understand fee book chart by category. I want to do it for the whole year, starting January. Let's do that. I want to know how is my quarter performing compared to my entire year thus far. Okay? In a matter of seconds, uLaw is able to give you that data. So now you're able to compare between the quarterly pie chart with your yearly pie chart. If I were to zoom in here, you see your small claims was at 32%. It's at 32% for the whole year, but specifically in this quarter, family law has been 36% compared to the 13.5% overall. So it's been a great quarter for family law matters. Okay? Same thing you can do for expenses. We all know that we sometimes think that we spend a bit too much on expenses, office expenses, but we don't measure them, and we don't track them, and we don't visualize them. So this is a way, again, you can visualize your expenses. Okay, for this particular quarter, where are my expenses? What are my top expenses? Again, you can see that 38% of my expense came from printing and stationery. Now that seems a bit too high. You want to know, how does this compare to, and you have a doubt and you want to know if this month, or actually let's just go with the theme, let's do this yearly, and you want to know, how has it been for this entire year? Has the stationery still been a high number? And there you go. You have 31% overall this year of your expenses going into printing and stationery. So it is a problem. It's not just a problem over the year. It's been a problem for you this quarter, or something to think about too. So this is where analytics really kicks in to give you this visual representation of the data that you have in a format of information that you can consume. Okay? And this you could utilize for various different planning purposes. So you want to know pro bono by clients. Who are all the individual clients who have, of course, you've been a good Samaritan to, and you've given them pro bono hours. You can do that for the whole quarter. And you can not just have pie charts, you can have tables, you can have bar charts. So you provided 66% of pro bono hours to Jeremy Brown, followed by Gary Sobers, and the table also tells you the total value. Okay? So the analytics is almost definitely an afterthought. Once the data is in it, it's going to be able to give you all this information, but it's important for you to stay on top of this so that you can make informed decisions about the future of your business. Okay? So hopefully today's session was valuable to you to better appreciate these hidden gems, as we call them, within the product that really extend and surround the core capabilities, which are the legal accounting, practice management, and business accounting aspects of the product around the dashboard, contacts, quick view. We spoke about calendar, and of course, last but not the least, the analytics. Okay? So with that, I'll say thank you and for joining us today for this webinar. Please do email us at support@uLawPractice.com with your thoughts and ideas of newer topics that we could take to, be more informative in these webinar sessions that can make sense and make your Friday afternoons worthwhile. Thank you once again, and have yourself a fantastic weekend. Thank you.